podcast. We're Jeff and Rochelle. And hey, we're so excited to be joining you today, wherever you're watching, listening. Maybe you're on a walk or driving. You know, that's when I listen to podcasts. I walk and drive. So I spend a lot of time in the car. So wherever you are, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Hey, real quick, before we even go into, we're starting a new series today. Yeah. Before we even do that, just want to say, stay tuned. Yes. We've got some really exciting things coming down the pipeline. Is it pipeline or pipeline? Like, what is it?
I would say pipeline. Things in the mix.
I don't even know. I think I just made up a word
Things that we're under construction.
There you go.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad I used the right word. Yeah, in the mix.
Yeah,
we'll just do all the words that we can do. So, hey, pay attention. Stay tuned.
So excited.
Be aware.
I want to say it right now. I want to, I can't.
Yeah, but we got some really exciting things coming. So, it's going to be fun. Next couple of weeks, you're going to see some of these things come launching. So, hopefully, we've been working really hard for quite some time. So, anyways, but today we're starting a new series really focusing on the church, although a lot of these things could be transferable to a lot of areas of life.
Yeah, anywhere. Your business, your job, your everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, really, it could go. Yeah. But we know the church world.
Yes, we do.
Been in it for, we've been in the church for a long time, but in full-time ministry leadership for over 20 years, 2 decades. So we've had our share of experiences. And so today we're starting our new series, but here's the title of today's, I've Got a Complaint.
So do you have a complaint for me?
I don't. That's just the title. That's just the title.
I've got a complaint.
And so we're going to talk about how do you appropriately complain? How do you appropriately share a grievance? I don't know. I was struggling with the word complain, and so I looked up all these synonyms. Grievance, issue.
How do I file a grievance? Makes it sound like you're going
pretty
to
formal.
Human resources.
Yeah. So here's the deal. I've got a complaint. What do I do with it? And the reality is I've been on both sides of these things. I've had complaints. Sometimes I want to complain about myself, so. I
want to complain about myself, not you, but I want to complain about myself.
And then sometimes I've obviously been the one who's received the complaint. And it's not always a bad thing.
Correct.
Like, it's not always been a negative experience to receive a complaint. Let me just tell you, there's some people who have complained, and I'm so thankful they did, because I didn't even see the issue. Or I was like, man, I'm the only one. Maybe no one else cares about this. And then I realized other people do.
And that's why I hope this episode is really a resource for people, because I think the pendulum swings. Either we feel like we have to complain about everything and anything, or there is something out there. It's like, no, we can't complain because we can't say anything negative. We don't want to do it because we want to, and what we'll say is we want to have unity. Now, biblical unity is a good thing. We want that. But that does not mean that we shouldn't bring a complaint. And so I think this is going to help people to say, hey, no, there are times where you need to.
Yeah. I mean, unity is not like just let's just pretend we all agree. Yeah. That's called denial. Unity is when you actually do the hard work of getting to a place.
Yes.
And it's not conformity. It's hearing different people's opinions. I am thankful for various people who have shared varying opinions. There are ways to do it. And so that's what we want to talk about. I would say if you find yourself in a spot where you've got a complaint, we're going to go through some steps of what to do as you share it, because I think it really matters how you do it. I think that's actually one of the biggest parts. How do you effectively complain? Because
the question on the front end, before we go into this, do you want to just say stuff, or do you want to be heard? Do you want the situation to resolve?
I don't understand. You just said, do you want to say stuff or do you want to be heard?
Thank you for clarifying.
I'm like, I don't get it.
You know what? I don't either. I got a complaint about myselh just now.
I'm like, let's talk. What do you mean? I want to say stuff and I want to be heard.
No, I think this is huge, because if you want your complaint to be heard and the situation to be resolved,
how you do it matters.
How you do it
Okay.
matters rather than just making noise. That's what I should say.
I'm like, do you want to say it or be heard? Both.
How else do we I want to do both.
I want to do both.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
So
Thank you.
I'm really grateful that you shared that.
Yeah. That nugget of wisdom.
Okay. So here's
Oh,
some
my
steps
goodness.
to go through if you find yourself having a complaint. What do you do? What do you do? Like, I mean, these are real things. Do you just suck it up? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So here's number one. Pray about whether this complaint should go to the next level. And when I say the next level, I mean beyond your mouth. Like, should I keep it inside or should I actually exercise my mouth and be heard, like you said, and actually take it to the appropriate person? I know that if I were listening to this podcast for myself and I was listening, I'd almost want to fast forward this one because I'd be like, okay, I already know I should.
I prayed about it, whatever.
But I'm actually trying to learn this more in my own life. And I think what praying does about it is it, first of all, it forces you to not just knee-jerk response.
Yes. Oh my. Because can we be absolutely honest?
Yeah,
if
like
we're
we just want to.
If we're passionate about something, and hopefully you are, we just want to rush to that. We do, because there's a situation and that's legitimate.
And it needs help.
And so let's step in and do it. But praying about it really disciplines us to say, okay, let's go to the Lord about this first.
Yeah.
Let us get the right mind about the situation.
Yeah. And sometimes praying about something isn't some like magical, like I had this encounter and it's like a transfiguration moment. And then now all of a sudden I view it differently. No, like that can happen. Yes. I do believe that can happen. But I think a lot of times is like, oh, okay, I'm going to take some time to pray, because praying takes time.
Yes.
And I'm going to let the Lord work some things out even in my own thinking. Like, okay, I'm not as angry right now. So now I'm thinking about things differently. I think it really is a disciplining process.
And this is the way we invite, I don't want to sound mystical here, but we invite the Holy Spirit into the situation.
It's not mystical, that's good.
We invite, are we having a conversation with the Lord about this? Are we talking to Him? Help us to address this properly. Help us to think about this. We need to bring Him into the situation. It's going to give us a better mind to address it.
Yeah, and I also think it's not just, okay, that gives me time, because that what I was sharing could have come across like, oh, just give me time. And no, but sometimes we just allow the Lord to work in people's hearts and in our own as well.
Yes.
And so I think number one, if you have a complaint right now, if you have a complaint for your church especially, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But anything else, first thing you do is you bring it to prayer. You ask the Lord, and before you take it to anybody else, what do I do? Okay. So then number two, after you've prayed about it, and if you feel like, yeah, it is something that needs to go to the next level, and this can totally happen and it's totally good, I think number two is to think about the mode, the method, and the timing. Okay.
Oh,
so
man,
mode, method, and timing. So like, how are you going to do it? What's the, like, are we going to email? Are we going to call? Are we going to talk? Are we going to have a meeting? And when? Timing is so important. So this requires a little bit of work.
Absolutely. And can we just go over some times, especially as it relates to the church, because we're talking about this. Here, sometimes that will not yield a good result. And I think this is important to think through. Okay, I've got a complaint. I've got something that's legitimate. I've prayed about it. Okay, now we're going to go to the next step. We're going to bring this. Think through sometimes that will not yield a good result. So, I think number one, Sunday mornings. Sunday mornings, maybe I would say before service, before the pastor preaches. I have this person. It's funny because this person jokes with me every Sunday. we'll be in the bathroom or somewhere, and he'll say, hey, Pastor, I got a complaint. Can I give you a complaint before you preach, right before you preach? And he's joking. He's obviously joking, which is funny, and we laugh. But I think it's important. That is a bad time for a pastor to come up and say, hey, I got this problem with this person over there. Can we talk about it?
It's only funny because people actually do it.
Yes.
It's like things aren't funny if it actually doesn't happen at times.
Yes.
And it's funny. Like, we would have a whole nother podcast, like, series if we wanted to talk about the crazy things that are said sometimes right before you're preaching.
Right before.
And I'm like, I don't know if you understand what happens here. This is not just a little talk. This isn't a TED Talk for 5 minutes. We're not that kind of church. We're actually bringing forth...
That's another podcast, right?
We're actually communicating the Word of God and believing that this is the moment that somebody might make a decision that will impact every bit of their lives of generations. Absolutely. And you want to talk about how there's not enough toilet paper or that the soap is the wrong smell? And again, I am using real examples here. These are real examples.
Absolutely real examples.
I don't like the smell of the soap. Well, okay, that's, but okay, timing totally matters. So just think about if you were doing something that you had worked on, prayed about, cried over, sweat over for, many, many hours. You're believing God to do life transformation, and then somebody comes right before you're going to do that and shares a complaint. Not good timing.
Not good timing. Yep.
And again, some people might say, well, you're putting parameters on that.
Well, I think
it's good.
The way I like to see it, we're putting parameters on how you can best be heard, on how the actual complaint can best be heard and then solved.
Yeah. So Sunday morning before a message isn't good.
I'll say this, even Saturday afternoons. And so you say, well, okay, Sunday mornings are out. Saturday afternoons are out. And here's why. I think your pastor, the people, they're obviously probably doing a couple things. Spending time with their family. Potentially they're preparing for the next day as well. There's a whole lot of things.
Sunday morning starts on Saturday.
Saturday afternoon is when Sunday morning begins.
And I want to just say this really quick. We learned this early on in ministry.
Yes.
We tried and failed. And to learn from our failure.
Yeah.
So we would try to go on vacation and we'd be like, let's just get back Saturday night. Like, no big deal.
Yeah.
And Sunday is the day that we go back to the church, but Saturday we're not. We learned that Sunday morning, if you want to be effective in ministry, Sunday morning actually begins Saturday afternoon. And so we no longer do that, if at all possible. There have been very few exceptions, but we travel Friday to Friday now, and so these are things, if you're a pastor listening, try it because it will revolutionize coming back right before a Sunday. You're not ready.
Yeah.
You're not ready. Like we know, we tried it. So Saturday afternoons begin the prep for Sunday. Yes. And so I think that's why.
Yeah, I just think honor that prep time. I honor that.
Yeah.
And I think another day is your pastor's day off. Find out, I think it's as good as a way to serve your pastor. Find out when your pastor's day off. Some people do Fridays, some people do Mondays. Find out what that day is. A couple things. Pray for your pastor, but also find out that day so you're not texting, emailing, calling about a complaint.
Yeah, like use those days for emergency contacts, of course.
Absolutely. Pastors are always available. Okay,
right.
Number one.
But if we're talking about a complaint, something that could be talked about on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, don't go for the Friday, which is, that's for us, our day off. Yeah. I think about a lot of pastors. I know Friday is their day off, but some people choose to do it differently. Find out what it is.
Yes.
I think it's really, I agree. You're most likely not going to call your doctor on their day off.
Yes.
And share about how you have a bunion. You schedule an appointment for that. So, you can call us about your bunion. It's okay, but you know what I'm talking about. So I think that talks about timing, but I think the mode and the method are just as important.
Yeah.
So is this just an email that you could send, great. Like, email's not bad. I don't think email's bad.
No, not at all.
I understand tone can't be read in emails sometimes. I personally think if there's something, I'm more of an email or a phone call type person. I think texting kind of says, hey, respond to me right now. Maybe I'm just a complete Gen Xer or a millennial in that, and maybe the Gen Zers are going, what are you talking about? What's email? So, maybe that's a little outdated. I don't know, but I just think try to use the best method.
I think doing it in a way where you're not implicitly telling someone, answer me now, whatever that is.
Right.
Email, even a phone call, in a way that you're not, I'm expecting this answer right now.
Yeah.
So.
So there we go. I think that's good. Number 3, think about what the actual complaint is. And I know that might sound crazy.
But this is surprisingly a difficult one.
Yeah. I think sometimes we think we know what we're actually complaining about, but it's not really the deeper issue. And so I think that comes back to that number 1, like pray about it, think about it, have a little bit of time so that you're able to really articulate what is the real complaint.
Oh, absolutely. I think anytime we come in, because initially I think we come in with a list, like, well, I have this, this, and this. And I think anytime we come in with a list of complaints, we're in a bad spot. And I say we because we've all been there. And the reason is because it's so easy to think of the issues, but let's pray about it. Let's think through it. Okay, can I succinctly say this in like one thing or maybe even 2 things? And the reason is this, is if I want to be heard, I'm going to try to do it in the shortest way possible so I'm not sounding like I'm piling on.
Yeah.
So do I have 3 concerns that are legitimately like linked to just one thing?
Right.
And this is why, pray about it, write it down, really kind of wade through that to really think, what is the actual concern that I have?
Yeah,
so,
I really, I've been in situations where people have literally come in with manila folders and I'm like, oh, okay, what's in that folder? And then the folder opens.
It's our case file. We didn't know it was our case file.
I didn't know it was a case file because I don't keep case files. Yes. And, it's like prime time. We keep receipts. That's only funny in game competitions. But when you're talking about real life people, we don't want to keep receipts. We don't want to keep a log of on August 21st. You looked at me sideways,
And we say this because this has happened.
This is real life.
This is, people are like, oh, that doesn't happen. That happens. And so I think when we're bringing the complaint, we want to be seen as an advocate of the person that we're talking to. Someone who serves. We're not here to be their nemesis, but we literally want to serve.
We only have one adversary, and he's the devil.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, but seriously, think about how we could make this shorter. I've been in these spots, and if I find myself having complaint after complaint, I'm going, hold on. I need to do some hard work. I need to, I have been there. I get it. I understand that it can get that place. I think then I need to go, okay, what is the real issue? What's the real issue? Let's get down to the real issue. So if you find yourself having a list of complaints, it's probably not going to go well.
Right.
It's just probably not going to be a good situation.
Yes.
So I think number 4, do this alone.
Well, this is huge. You're like, what? Why is alone? If someone comes to you and says, hey, can you come with me? And then, because I have this concern. If you're the person being asked, you may not know what you're getting into. You may not know what you're getting into. And so also that could look up here as if you're ganging up on the person you're complaining to.
So we've seen this go sideways.
Yeah.
And so there's been lots of complaints at different times in life. That's just how it goes. But there, I remember one particular instance where somebody said, hey, I want to meet with you. I've got kind of a complaint. Sounds good. So we met, and all of a sudden this other person's in the room. I didn't know that person was coming. Well, the person that originally scheduled the meeting just starts going into the complaint, and I can see the other person's becoming very uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And afterwards, they're like, I didn't know I was being invited to come to a complaint. And it was like, oh, okay, like, this can get real odd real quick. And so this is best done, hey, just one-on-one, a phone call or a meeting or something, just to share. If it's not that big of a deal, go with that. Now, I want to make a really hard and fast rule. This is not talking about abuse. I'm talking about a complaint about, I don't know. I struggle even to say a whole lot of things. Like, how, you know...
Yeah, it's like what?
I don't want to give you, like, okay, I feel like the foyer is messy. Okay, like, I don't know. Okay, or I don't like something that's happening in the youth group. I can just put that on there, like, and I want to share about that or something. Okay, that's totally cool. Like, totally cool. That's not abuse. But if there is a situation where abuse is being addressed or something like that, I am not advocating doing that alone. You need somebody with you.
And I want to say, from the leader's perspective, oftentimes the Matthew 18, come first, alone, has been used and employed to continue spiritual abuse, to continue abuse. And what we're saying is, we do not feel like that abusive situations need to be handled in that way. So that is when elders need to get involved. That is when other people need to get involved. So we're not saying, you have to face your abuser alone. So we're not saying that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to say that because spiritual abuse and abuse of all kinds are really, are so prevalent in the church specifically. And so that's not what we're speaking to here.
Absolutely. I think that's a sin issue.
Yes.
Complaint is not. It's just a varying of opinion. So I think these are, like, if you're just talking opinion, things that we just, maybe I see it differently, you see it differently, let's just meet one-on-one. Sin, accusation, things like that. Definitely
now,
different.
If you follow this process, you may find out that there's something beneath it.
Right. And then
you may find out that there's a sin
need to go to a next level. Right. I mean,
absolutely.
Okay, so do this alone.
Yeah.
Okay, we covered the abuse thing. That is a different podcast.
Yes.
Which we probably will do.
Yes.
Next one, whatever number we are on.
5.
5. There we go. Bring a solution.
Oh, I love this one.
You want to take it?
Well, I love this one because what it shows is it shows a couple things. If I'm bringing a complaint, I see the problem, but I've also thought through, here's a potential solution. I don't expect you to take my solution, but what it also does is, on the part of the leader, we can't think that, leaders have all the solutions. As a leader, I would love it if someone, maybe they'll see a problem, maybe they see a problem that I see, and they'll come to me with a solution, and maybe it's a solution that I didn't see, and I'll say, wow,
that's
you
great.
know what? That's an incredible thing. So a solution is win-win because it shows your ability to think through the situation, provide a solution, and maybe could hopefully be part of the problem, which I think is how the body of Christ should operate. Here's a problem, potential solution. Hey, let's work on this together. So
yeah, and I think the solution thing's good too, because if you have a complaint and then you're forced, before you bring the complaint, to think about the solution, you might go through it and go, wow, I realize now why they do that. Yeah. There's no good another good option. There is no other room to expand the Sunday school program or, or whatever, because, I started to try to think through a solution and every room's taken. Or things like that. And so having to go through this solution makes you a leader, makes you more of you care about the solution. I have made that part of just my mantra.
You do this very well.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, there are times with my kids, I have to maybe call the school or I don't know, like a sports team or whatever, lots of things. And I don't want to be the person that just says, well, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to think about this. All right, this may be a problem, and here's a way that it could be solved. And maybe there are things I don't know. Yeah. Like, I want to be really humble when I come into something that I am not an expert in or that I haven't done before, and go, hold on, there may be things I don't see here, but I do want to bring this, and here's a possible. But let's talk.
Good. That's good.
Complaining does not mean you have to be adversarial.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, I just want to stress this enough. I think this is a heart issue. If you're coming in adversarially,
yes,
I don't even know if that's a word, as an adversary, that's a heart issue, and you shouldn't go and complain yet. Right. You're not ready.
That's good.
You're not ready. And so go back to number 1 and just keep praying.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you do all of these things, and you go and do the confrontation.
Okay.
Confrontation. Look, I just said the word confrontation. It's not a confrontation.
Well, yeah.
Maybe I'm making it more that way. You just share your complaint.
Share your complaint.
Okay. And let's say it's received. Everything's great. Wonderful. You move on. But let's say that it's not received. What do you do then?
It's good. I love this one. Number 6 is stay engaged. Stay connected to the situation.
Yes.
And here's why. Your first response is gonna be, it's natural for everybody. You reject it, then I'm just gonna naturally, it's like you want to pull away. Totally. Naturally, you want to say, okay, well, they didn't hear me. I guess I'm not gonna bring another potential solution, and I tried to do all this.
I'm not valued here.
I guess I'm not valued. All this, that is the, can I just say, the human nature. Fight the urge to flee. Fight the urge.
And sometimes it's going to be strong. I'm just going to say it's going to be a strong urge to flee.
Don't necessarily stay and fight, but stay engaged, stay relationally engaged, because the only way you're going to make an impact in whatever that is if you stay relationally engaged. Doesn't mean you have to agree. And I would in fact say continue, if it's legitimate, all this stuff, continue
to be an advocate for change.
To be an advocate, continue to be calm. Don't get up in maybe if there's conflict that comes from it, don't get in. Just, this is still how I think about this.
Yes.
And then stay engaged. I think that's because that's where change happens. That is where solutions occur. And sometimes you have to stay engaged for longer periods of time.
I just think this is the hardest one.
Oh, it is.
I really do, because sometimes I just think our natural tendency is to withdraw.
Yes.
And I just want to say, fight that natural tendency. And I think within a pretty quick time period, usually you'll find yourself, oh, okay, I'm stayed engaged. But if you pull yourself away, it is not long before you feel completely alienated. And I just think it's so danger. It's so much danger.
Oh, it is.
So fight that urge, stay engaged. So I've got a complaint. What do you do?
Pastor, I got a complaint. We need to talk.
Ooh, scary words. No, but seriously, go through these 6 things and stay engaged. And I really think there can be really healthy things. The word tells us that iron sharpens iron. We can still be friends.
Yes.
And disagree.
That needs to be said 5 times over. Oh my goodness.
We do not have to agree on every method. There are times when you and I don't agree on methods.
Really?
There are times when I don't agree with myself after a certain period of time. I'm like, why did I think that was good? If we can't get to that place where we can agree and then have the ability to disagree without being angry, wow, I think we're going to be immature babies.
Yes.
We've got to be mature and realize, I'm not talking about issues of doctrine. We're not talking about this.
No, we're not.
We're not talking about issues of abuse. We've already talked about that. We are talking about just things that we disagree on, methods, things like that. How do we deal with it? Don't be a baby.
And I like what you said. I want to let everybody know, even as a pastor, sometimes I disagree with myself and say, you know what, it's so, know that about your pastor or the person you just know that, hey, maybe they don't agree with it sometimes. And I think that's huge. If we're, as leaders, we don't have it all figured out all the time. And so we're just looking for people who can come and, hey, let's solve this stuff together. So this is good.
All right. So complain on, my friends. No, I'm just kidding. Like, I hope you didn't hear do all this complaining. No, but I think how to do it, how to write complaint. So we're going to be doing several episodes really about some of this like real practical stuff in the church. And I'm excited for the next one, so don't miss out. Tune in then. But until that time, rate, review, subscribe, all the things. Please do for the podcast.
We'll see you next time right here on the Deep Rooted Podcast. We'll see you then.